You're watching Network Radio. Live from the Media Broadcasting Center.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Walking the Talk. I'm your host, Mark Russell. That kind of 8 o'clock just jumped right up on me real quick when I was trying to set up this, so I hope all my little bars are in the green here on the sound switch, so I hope everybody's hearing me pretty well. Tonight's topic, I kind of flip back and forth a little bit, but I think I'm going to catch up on a little bit of the big hot postings around Facebook and social media. And then, of course, now all the news has jumped on board. It might be just like, maybe you're being played. Maybe this is just another real setup that, we're so busy waiting for another 9/11, or as so many other like to kind of do the fear porn around for the nuclear attack in New York and the earthquake that's caused by nuclear detonation through California and so on, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, there's an awful lot of subtlety that's happening. And I think if we do some discernment over the last 40 years, a lot of this big social engineering part of things has been subtleties that we're not seeing until a few years later what the real impact of them is. And the one that I'm more specifically talking about right now is the cops in the schools. Of course, this one that is being going all through the social media and everything else. And now, as you see through today, headlines are just everywhere as far as, it's a white cop against a black student. It's another white on black crime. It's excessive force. It's blah, 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 blah. You can probably pick up about 30 or 40 different headlines now. Boy, can you ever tell this slant, especially if you just look at this story and search through all of the different avenues that are covering it, and you'll see what their agendas are. You'll see the slant of little twists of words and little twists of innuendos on the headline. Like, this is a joke. Talk about trying to push buttons. But let's be fair to everybody here too, and let's see if we can I can pull this up for us, and let's take a listen to it as well.
Nobody getting this shit on Snapchat.
Hey.
It's not what you do.
Don't break it, bro. Don't break it. Come on, bro. That shit is hard, man.
What the fuck?
Hey.
What the fuck?
I'll put you in jail now.
Okay. So that was kind of it at normal. I'm going to see if I can just tweak the sound up a little heavier for you at the start here, and see if we can just get a little bit more on the volume here.
So what? I treat you fair last year, right? You don't know me? Okay, you gonna come with me or am I gonna make you? Come on, I'm gonna get you up.
Okay, now for me, I'm gonna have to tweak this down here again, just so that you're not being blasted out totally. But you know, a little perspective. I mean, we can all see this. I hope you were hearing most of it. And, you know, let's try to make a little bit of common sense about anything, because so far there isn't an awful lot out as far as official verbiage. Everybody's holding everything close to the vest because there's going to be lawsuits and everything else all over the place. But let's just use some common sense as adults here. You got kids in school, you got a teacher in a classroom, and you got a kid. Now, somewhere in here, and you know, people can correct me if I'm wrong, and feel free to post on the video and so forth. The last I knew, I've never heard of a cop going in, walking classroom to classroom, observing the classrooms themselves, and then arbitrarily picking out a student for what they think is behavior or for whatever issue. I don't know that exists right now, but I'm going to, until I have evidence of something different, I'm going to state that's not the case. I'm going to much more reflect, for especially these purposes, that this officer was called to the classroom because of this student. So that's the first step in anything that's going on here, is you have a problem student that the teacher didn't or could not want to handle, and mandated that situation over to the next step of authority that the schools put in place. So until there's some other evidence in there, that's pretty reasonable thought. My second big part of this, and this is when we first saw these tapes coming out, it was clipped down where you didn't see the first 5, 10, 15 seconds here. And let's run this again. Well, there's a cop and a teacher talking to the student again. I would very doubt that this is the first time the two of them are even speaking to him. That would be very highly suspect as well. So now, instead of just talking, the officer has stepped up and taken charge, and the teacher has stepped away. The books have been removed from her desk and put aside, and she's been asked to leave twice so far that I can tell.
So what? I treat you fair last year, right? You don't know me?
Now, he asked her to leave again, and in case you can't catch it, her reply to him is, "I don't know you."
Okay, you gonna come with me or am I gonna make you?
And again, he has just stated to her, "You are either following me out or I am removing you."
Come on, I'm gonna get you up.
Now, she said something that's unaudible, but obviously it was not complying.
Hands behind your back.
Now, the best that I can see out of this, you'll have the emotional struggle of this without a doubt.
Your hands.
So from here on in, it's the give me your hands type of go. And, you know, that's kind of the biggest part of the, as far as I'm concerned, the altercation. But now let's follow up here. She's asked to leave. It's an unruly student. The teacher doesn't handle her. An officer who is in uniform and has a badge on tells her to leave. That doesn't happen. Then it gets escalated and he tells her that she's leaving or she is being removed. And she mouths back. Well, okay, so now all of you heroes out there that want to second guess everything as you're so apt to do all the time now, what's your solution? What are you doing with the teacher, the classroom, the other 20 students in there with this individual that disrupts the whole thing, tells everybody where to go, and is just doing what they want to do? What are you doing? You want to sit down and bake him a cake and try to entice him out of the room after how long? How long are you going to wait? Like, instead of you just mouthing off about the cop, and I will endeavor that, of course it hits the emotional triggers. And it does for everybody, and we need to be concerned about it. But from what I also saw there, and if I remember my little school days, you're in these desks that you're kind of stuck in. It's not a chair and a table. So trying to get somebody out from there, even when they raise their knees, I mean, we've all been in them. We know that you're not just being removed out of them without the thing flipping over and the rest of it. So he got her out of it. Now, how much you see her being moved and everything else, yeah, it's a bigger guy. It's a female. What her size is really irrelevant. But from what I'm seeing is the thing is overturned and then she's pulled away and out of it. And then all I'm doing is seeing him at this point doing nothing but have her down and taking her arm, telling her to put her hands back, give him her hands. So again, another lawful reply, because now she's being detained, now she's under arrest. So here we go into this battle again of going, like, what are you people doing? You honestly think that you're going to stand in front of a cop and tell him where to go and tell him all these things and you're going to start ordering them? You got to pick your battles, man. And that's even for us as adults out there. What are you teaching your kids? Well, guess what? You're teaching them nothing, because why was that student in there and didn't leave when the teacher told her? Because we got nothing but a generation of a high percentage of these type of individuals, and it's individuals. It's not race. It's not anything else. Individuals that walk around with this entitlement, arrogance, and no discipline whatsoever from the kindergarten playground all the way through until they're at an age where they're either one or two things. They're meeting their own kind and they're getting shot, stabbed, into gangs, doing whatever. Or they're meeting an authority side of it. And they're going to run into all kinds of different situations. So let's call some spades a spade here. Let's use some common sense in discerning the information that's coming out and calling things for what they are. Now let's get to a real point. The real point of this is this whole thing is engineered. Step away from it all. If you think this is anything, you've got a big mistake on, you got a big awakening happening to you. This is only the tip of the iceberg. This is only starting to come to fruition. How do you think it got cops in the schools in the first place? How did you even allow this? You're sending your kids to an institution. And now you got cops, armed cops, patrolling the hallways. What, for the crazed gunman that's going to come in? I don't think so. They're for your kids, and half of them, I use the term very loosely, being in this environment. This is their institution for this age. And you put them there. You handed over all of your responsibilities to the state. And you just want to stand up and peek off every once in a while saying you got your rights about your children. Well, no, you don't, because you actually handed them over to the state. Both legally and morally, you handed them over to the state. You sent them off to school. How many school board meetings did you go to? How much time do you spend being involved in your school? And then even the ones that did, they get no support from the rest of the parents, and the school boards overrun you. Doesn't that kind of sound like our government? You got the handful of really great people and great concerned people about their communities, but then they get no support from anybody else, and they're just run over by the system. Not much difference between a school board and your local town council or your state legislature, is there? This is all being played. And what about this cop block and all these other blogging things out there and everything else? One discernment thing that I've liked to use is, okay, you're reporting a news story, you're doing this, you're doing that. Where's your solution to it as well? Where's your answer to it? Where's your follow-up with the cases? Do you support the actual legal actions defending other people? Are you actually supporting an advocacy group out there that is supporting your actual goal and agenda? Or are you just plugging in and you're nothing more than the controlled opposition? You're there by them. You are them. And you're there to pull these emotional little buttons, show 10 seconds of that minute-and-a-half clip, and call it another race conflict, another cop brutality. And yes, there is all kinds of them. You can see a number of my comments and a number of statements I've made about cops. And I'll be the first to go after that whole agenda in a different show. We're talking about this clip and this reporting of it and this being played. We're all being played. We're being played against each other. You know, we can't even have this discussion in a Facebook group or anything else because you got people irate. As soon as you say what? So what? She got arrested. You get jumped down your throat by a bunch of people. All they do is turn around and hand their kids to the state. How come the kid is... you know how many posts you go through until you see somebody going, whose kid is this? Why didn't she just walk out of the classroom? And then see that person being lambasted by another 100 comments back to him? No wonder everybody shuts up. We got to grow some here, people. And stand up to these other ones. And a big part of the solution is taking your kids back. Your kids are your property. Yeah, they're not your best friend. They're your property. And you have a duty and an obligation to them. And they have a duty and an obligation to you. How do you expect them to live up to theirs when you don't live up to yours? Stop turning your kids over to the state. Stop giving your kids to somebody else to bring up. And then it's also a good little point in here that I don't mind adding. You know, it takes a community to raise a child. The damage is so far done in our society that we're not just going to get out of it by browbeating each other. This is not what it's about. It's just a wake-up talk. Wake up. It's a tap on the shoulder. And it's a tap on the shoulder to all of us. We all have to take back our children, our next generation, our hope, our future. It causes so much pain to the parents for all these things that are happening to all these kids. Don't we see can't you see what's going on at all? That kid is beaten, that kid is shot, that kid is stabbed, that one is murdered by cop or gang or by thugs or by whoever else is, whatever other circumstances. There is another trauma and another person and family and society that is damaged. We have an obligation to each other. We have a responsibility to each other. We are our brother's keepers. So I would please encourage you to stop being baited into these pointless, irrelevant, stupid arguments of hate between everybody. It's not going to solve anything. And before you know it, you are going to have a cop in every classroom. And where do you think they're going to get them? They're going to be your high school bullies that can't get a job, and they'll put them as your class monitors. The ones that will follow orders. The ones that don't have enough education, enough smarts, enough social skills to get any other job. And that's what you're going to be holding your kids over to. That's just a little food for thought. So that's kind of my little go on that one. As I was saying last week, the move is still going on. The house project is kind of coming right together. I'll pull up a couple of pictures I wanted to share from last weekend. There was, let's see which ones I can pull up. See if I can do the album thing first. Nope, it doesn't do it when I'm in. So I've got to go that way. Pictures that way. I'll do that one. This was my great little morning here. We had the great frost and everything else happening, and it was a gorgeous morning the other day, and it was so nice too, actually, to see some kind of blue skies without all the chemtrail march and everything going on. It was just a surreal morning, so I really enjoyed it. But as I was mentioning before, this was and is our little heat source for the winter. So we got it wrapped up. We got about 9 bush cords in, which should do pretty much for the winter. This was my first go at this type of a system, but it's being so enjoyable. It's a little bit of work to get set up, but again, because it was our first year, I think that was the mainstay of it. Now that, and especially as I get up there through this winter full time, and the move's completed, then you're able to keep up with all this. So your work is spread out throughout the year, and I kind of stay ahead of things anyway. So, but we have her all fired up and operating and so forth. And again, this kind of just brought me right back to childhood. I kind of grew up in the farmhouses and that kind of avenue, the old small town type of things where you had the radiators in the old homes and boilers and so forth. So it was good to actually see that this system brings you back into an actual, really true heat. If anybody hasn't experienced it, it's really hard to explain. But even people walking in, there's a coziness and a warmth that you just don't get from gas or electric heat or oil. It's just a natural source, and there's something with that heat that just comes into the air, and it warms up the building and the furniture, and everything absorbs it. Everything around you seems to absorb this type of heat, and it radiates it back again. It's just an amazing type of heat. Rather simple. Comes through water supply in, water supply out. Goes into the furnace from underground. Has a core going into the back of it right here. This little plate here, if you're able to see it, I'll move this little screen out. Let me just pull this picture up a little bit. There you go. So this little plate right underneath here is a backing. Water lines come right up into here through the concrete base and into the unit. And then this whole backing system is just a rad. And the water circulates through the back and the side. Has a water pressure sensor, and the doors it's just like stoking a furnace. So you have an in line. It goes through the core, and then has the outline coming through there, and then it just comes through with the inline. The outline goes through a air exchanger. The air falls through again another rad core, picks up all the heat off of the water, and pushes through just like a normal furnace. So it's kind of pretty straightforward. The only thing that was a little bit different for my end of things was we brought in the water supply off of the normal pressure tank. It just has a small wall-mounted pump here that pumps it out to the furnace. And then what we did is the return line comes in through the bladder system, in through the water heater. So where the big bonus of this was is now as soon as you fire up the furnace, we're able to turn off the hydro to the hot water tank. So now when we turned around, and from my own, a little bit more of the let's say rough calculations of things, we now turn around. Of course, you have the for our first go, we had the cost of the wood and so forth, but now you have no heat cost, and you also turned around and we have now no electrical costs for hot water for the next 4 or 5 months, or as long as we have the furnace going. which could be most part of April. So again, you actually, and hot water being one of the biggest consumptions of the hydro, this ends up being a huge savings. And with me being up there next year when the move is full time, we had to buy some wood this year just because of the not being there, still doing the transition. But I'll be harvesting off of our own lot through next year. So we have no cost of wood any longer. And so now you just turned around and eliminated your heat and hot water billing for the 6-7 months out of the year. And that is a huge, huge savings. What I really enjoyed about that as well is it also made a big difference for when we set into the solar system next spring. You don't have as much draw on that system now that your hot water tank is going to be off. So it's nothing but bonuses all the way around. And this is part of trying to set up the infrastructure in order to make this transition to getting away from the companies, to unplugging from the system as much as possible, but keeping your comfort and keeping some of those things you're entitled to. You do as much work as you can in these fall months, which I kind of enjoy anyway. As you can see, probably with some of the wood pile there, it's a little bit more of a log type of go that we went into. There is some split, but I mean, the furnace is big enough to handle them. They burn slower anyway, and you kind of learn your heating and your fire rate and everything else. You play with it. But you know what? I go out and it's called throw another log on the fire, and I take a couple of logs and I split them. So you have smaller resources there, or when the fire is down, if you didn't pay attention to it enough, you got smaller wood to get it fired back up and so forth. But who knows? Maybe it'll help with the stomach here through the winter, and give me some exercise and so forth. When you're out stoking the fire, you get to split a little bit of wood at the same time, and it doesn't become such a great big project, and get a little bit of enjoyment and fresh air out of it too. So that's kind of the update right now on this. There is a couple stories I'm working on for next week that I picked up through the radio with some of the action that's going on in California's courts that started to get filed on Friday and Monday. And I'm just looking into that, and I don't want to really say too much yet until I finish some of the groundwork on there and are able to pull up some of the articles. And I know a couple of suits have been filed in the Supreme Court now. So I'll fill in that through the Facebook page, the Media Broadcast Center page through the week. And that will be the show for next week. So until then, God bless. Keep your heads and wits about you. Stay a little calmer. Let's do a little bit more thinking before we jump on each other. And let's do our best to kind of really start supporting each other and giving each other a break. We've got a big enough enemy now without picking each other all the time. There's some people that might need a little bit of a cuff upside the head, but you can do it with a little bit of kindness, a little bit of smartness, and who knows, maybe you'll just turn somebody onto your side and wake them up. So until next week, God bless. Try to be a little better tomorrow than you are today. Take care.